So this is the DTR engine. I'm stripping down for a rebuild for the blue bike. I'm going to start stripping now. First of all, we're going to get the flywheel off, lock it with this tool, these two tools, lock into those tools to keep the flywheel still while you get that nut off. So we're going to do that now. Good luck, brother. See if we can get it off with this. Perfect. Right, now we're going to get the flywheel puller and put that on the flywheel. Pull the flywheel off. And I'm just going to quickly rip the gear stick off as well. That's the gear stick off. Take this spacer out of the front sprocket. Sometimes that weighs down. My friend's has got a problem at the minute, and it's letting oil through the seal. I just think that's that on his, but he hasn't let us know yet. Anyway, right, I'm going to get the flywheel off. I'll go and get the flywheel puller. And that's what the flywheel puller looks like. That bit goes into there, and you've got 3 bolts what go into these 3 holes on here. And I have tape on the bolts, so I know to put them that much far through the flywheel, so they don't hit the stator inside. And now that's the flywheel puller on. That's what it looks like. Just going to tighten that nut into there. You don't tighten it all the way. You tighten the little nuts, and then you sort of it locks up. Sorry, and then you shock this, and it brings it off. Anyway, we'll do that now. Just focus the camera up so you'll see. Just come off dead easy. That's the flywheel off. It's the easiest one I've ever took off that. Right, now while we're working on this side, we'll take the stator out, which is that screw and that screw, and pull this all off. And always put your bolt, once your flywheel's off, back onto the end of the crank, just to protect them crank threads. There's also that's just in your flywheel, so I'll just put that on there. That goes on there, then you know, just to keep it safe. Now we'll get the stator off. The impact wrench in. That screw stuck. That's that one slack. So we'll get the stator off now. And there's a little neutral one down there to take off, what joins this blue wire. Just take that off. It just pulls out. Pull that off. Get the 2 screws out of the stator now. So just pull the 2 long screws out. That's the long screws what's come out. And the stator will just slide out. That's the stator. While I'm on this side, I'll loosen these 3 bolts, 3 nuts with the impact drive, and I'll loosen all these nuts as well round there, and then we'll move round the other side because there's nothing to take off this side now. Like the clutch arm just pops off. You just I haven't got my pick handy, but if I could pick that spring over there, they just slide out. We've got the clutch arm as well, because we'll be putting a new a new seal in the top. Where the clutch arm goes, there's normally a washer on there, that washer, so just keep that washer. We'll be putting a new clutch seal in there. There's some bearings in there as well. They might need replacing, but they hardly ever do. So we'll just put that washer off your clutch arm. So we're going to get the screws out now around the casing. That's all the case bolts out. Don't forget that one, if you can see the hole on the camera, because you sometimes miss that one. Well, I used to when I was young, but don't forget that one. But all these, they're all different lengths. I normally just put not a piece of cardboard, the shape of that, and put which bolt goes in, draw shape of the engine. But anyway, this is just one I want to show you the 3 screws inside of here. This one is a short one from there, and these 2 here are long ones. If you can see, them 2 are the long ones from there and there, and the short one out here is there. So there's the short one, there's the 2 long ones. Just see you're not putting a wrong bolt in there. If you snap a bolt in there, you've had it. Right, that side's all done now. We can move to the other side now. Spin the engine round, and as before, take all the bolts out of the casings, and there's 3 in the water pump. And as well, make another cardboard template just so you know which bolts go where, because I'm sure this one's 40mm and all the others are 30mm, something like that anyway. But anyway, we'll get this case off. It should just slide off because it's all slag. Off. That's it inside. There's your water pump. There's your oil pump. Always check these for cracks, because if a couple of them are cracked off, when the wheel comes round to run off there and it sits in there where there's no cracks, your water pump isn't going to spin. My friend's bike seized because of that. 3 teeth were missing. And when like I say, when the teeth, what were driving this, were sitting on it, they were just sitting in the bit where the bit were missing, so it wasn't turning. Yeah, that's it, that side. I'll be putting a new oil pump in, and that's seen better days. And once the casing's off, just get this safe. There's 2 of them. Fin washers. There's one on the back of there as well. It's just that sometimes when you take that casing off there, I've just took off there, drop out. Or sometimes when you put them back in, you forget to put them on. So just get that, keep it safe, and remember to be putting that on when you've rebuilt the engine. Right, now we're gonna be taking the clutch basket off. So first of all, we're going to take these 5 nuts out. I've got screw holes in. Never use a screwdriver on them. Use an 8mm socket. Just don't even touch just a push rod. Just that pulls off with the clutch thingy, with the clutch pressure plate on the front. So we're going to take these 5 out. Take these out in sequence as well. That one, that one, that one, that one, that one, and we'll slide these off. So that's the 5 clutch nuts out. They look like that, with springs behind them. On the clutch, I've got another video of how to do the clutch, but on the clutch, if you can see there's a circle there. When I take this circle off, that circle has to, when you refit it, that circle has to line up with this drum on the back. So on this drum behind here, there should be, the circle should be at the top in line with that, which it is, which is there. Now we can slide the plates off as well. There's a correct way to put the plates on. I've got videos for that. So if you see the second plate up, the black part's thinner than all the other black parts, and it's got a bigger diameter, and the damper ring goes in, and the metal rings have got grooves on. You've got to set them in positions. But anyway, I've got that video on YouTube. I'll just not put any because it'll take too long. Right, now we're going to take the inner boss out the clutch. So to take the clutch off, there's a little washing. You can see it there, the tab. You've got to bang that back. We're going to be locking the middle boss, because when you turn that nut, it just spins. We're going to be locking that with the tool and getting this off. So I'm going to get that off, get the nut off, get the thingy off. And a good tip on the tab, what you've just banged out, don't bang it all the way flat flush. Just bang it a little way, just on a little bit of an angle. So the nut comes out, but the nut's still touching it. And then when you put the nut back on, the plate's on an angle, so you can get it back round. If you've banged the plate flat, you kind of get round the back of it to bend it back round the nut. Right, we're going to lock that now and get the nut off. Now that's the tool on. Just going to be taking the nut off. It turns off anti-clockwise. That's it. I'll just get the lock and tab out so I can show what I meant before. And that's the lock and tab. That's what I meant before. Leave a lip on it so you can bend it back round. See, if you bend it flat like that, you're not going to be able to get nothing round it to bend it back round the nut. Right, the clutch will slide off now. There'll be a circle spacer on the back. That's the clutch. In a hope. There's your. That bit will be behind it. There's another one as well behind with a little washer. When you take clutches off, see that? When you take clutch, that's the clutch. It's a bit worn on there. I might have to put a new basket on it. That comes off after the clutch. But I always check when you take clutches off, because washers always stay on there. And on these, there's a little thin one in there. I'll zoom in. There's a thin one on there, concaved. I'll get that, because lots of people miss that. That's it there. It's come out now. And that's it there. It's concaved. The concaved face weighs outways like that. So what to explain, well, if that was like a C, that was a C shape like that, the C would go in there like that. Right. Now we can slide that off, and it will have the washer on the back, which off there is up there. Just get that out so I don't lose it. There's two, there's another one. So there's two of them thin washers go with that. I don't know where I put them, it's up there somewhere. Pull the kickstart shaft out. There's a spring there, and that thing, just pull that. Just take the tension off. Aye. And it just pulls out like that. That's your kickstart shaft. Oh, maybe put the nut back on there. But it's in the room, I think. The gear stick shaft, once that just slides straight out. I've got tons of these, so if I bend out and put a new one in, just it felt hard to get out, but I don't think it's bent. It's working alright, so that's alright as well. There's a baffler plate screw missing there. They're normally always hard to get off. I bet that snapped in there. But anyway, we're going to take that off. The primary drive nut and the primary drive, the kickstart idler, and then it's ready to split. And I've just noticed, looking closer, the baffler plate screw is snapped, and somebody's fixed a homemade little some sort of stopper in there. So I'm going to have to get that hole drilled out of there, I've put a full new casing on. So next we're going to take the kickstart idler cover off. Have some good circuit pliers. My dad gave me these when I was 13. About 30 years ago I've had them. 30 years I've had them. Right, anyway, there'll be a circlip and 2 washers. And a circlip behind. There's one circlip. Pull this off, there'll be a washer and another circlip. There's a circlip on there on the shaft. So tear that one off as well. So you've got that circlip goes on first onto that shaft, and then a fin washer goes like that. They're both the same. That goes on after the circlip. Then your idler cog. There's 2 sides to it. It goes on that way. So you've got your washer and your idler cog with the circlip as well. And the other washer goes on there, and then the other circlip goes on there. Right, we'll get these. The balancer shaft cog and the primary drive off now. Right, to take these off, there's another little tab on there if you can see it. But I knock that back, and if you can see on these, there's a mark there. See the circle and a little circle there. Them 2 have to line up when you join it back on. So right, we're going to knock that back and get a penny in there to lock them. And that's the tab pushed back. A tiny little bit plain, this bearing here. There's a woodruff key behind it, so I'm going to check the woodruff key, see if the woodruff key's shade or anything like that. But I'm going to get this off now then. Just get a penny copper because it's softer than the metal. These are. This one to lock this, to get this nut off, goes in there. When you get that nut off, the penny goes in there, but we'll get this one off first now. And it just comes off anti-clockwise as well, this nut. That's it. There'll be a little square woodruff key, we'll have a check of that. There's another tab. There's the tab. Notice I haven't bent it all the way. Some people reuse them if they're all chewed up. But you can't, some people buy brand new ones, I mean, if they're all chewed up, but you can sometimes reuse them. That's the nut as well. We'll just cannot take the cob off yet because we've got to lock this bit now for this primary drive one. So we'll get that off now, and it's a different size of that nut as well. So it's this one, 19mm, and this just comes off anti-clockwise as well. I normally like to put the nut on there to protect it off the wrench. I'll just put that there. And these aren't tight all the time. God damn. Ah, that's it. Whew. Spacer behind it. That's the nut off the primary drive. We'll put that back on once all the cogs is off to protect the crank. It's got a spacer in there. We'll just pull it off. That spacer goes into that groove. The back hasn't got a groove, but as I was on about before, this baffler plate being broke, that's how it's been broke. You can see where it's in the camera. That's where the baffler pin is being broken. It's been coming off. It's been coming off up here, slide up here and hitting that primary drive. That's what they see. See the groove all the way around it. Fuck. Right, so pull this cog off now. Check the woodruff key as well. There's be a little square one in here. There's the cog. That's, that goes on that way. There's the thingy that goes that way on the engine. There's the little woodruff key what goes in. Doesn't shade. I think the woodruff key goes into that square, what you can see. Now to get this off, I have to take this screw up the baffler. I don't know what this is here. But I'll have to, once this is off, I'll have a check of this. See how damaged the hole is. So right, we'll take this off now, because there's nothing else to take off on this side. Oh, and we'll take that gear select drum tension off as well, with all the spring in the arm and that. And that's the baffler plate off. That should come off quite easy. They're meant to have Loctite on, but you only put Loctite on the bottom thread. Some people must put, not realise that when you just put it on one thread, when you're screwing in, it goes all the way up anyway. Because I've had them where they've been Loctited all the way at the top, and you've got to impact drive them all the way out to the end. And that's what's happened there. Somebody's put too much Loctite and it snapped. But anyway, there's the baffler plate. Slides round. I can't get it past that cog there because of this little brass stud, whatever it is. So I'm gonna have to take that brass stud out now. It was a little screw. That was in nice baffler plate keeping it in. But that's what's hit the primary drive. So as I was meaning before, when this has come off because of that bolt snap down there, and it's come up here, it's been hitting that. That's how that groove all the way around there is off. So I've seen it before on bikes. Right, we'll get this cog off now. Over the out way. Put this screw back in there off that. See if I can get that drilled out. It doesn't look too bad. Right, anyway, I'm going to pop this off. There's a woodruff key in this as well. There's two on this side of the engine. This one's small. This one's long. See if it comes off with it. And there's that cog. It's got the circle on it. So it goes onto the engine that way to line up with the circle on the balancer shaft cog. And there's your woodruff key, little square one. Always check them, make sure they're square. If they're weird or anything or off shape, they're going to make your cogs run different. Right, now we're going to get this off, this little 10mm. So we'll get this off, just watch, because it's on a spring, it's tensioned up when you take it off. There, that's your spring, that's your nut with the little ridge in it, and that's your arm. It runs on the shaft drum. I've already just loosened that. Just need it off to get your main bearing seal out, and that just pulls out that spacer. Always check it for weight, but they're never wear. They're never wear. So that's, get that off as well. And just put the screw back in. Right, that's everything. Now we can get the crank split and split the cases. Always remember before you start, if you see there, I'll zoom in. If you see there on your gear selector drum, there's notches behind it. Like these have got to line up with the notches, if you can see, so it slots through. Like if it's there that point is going to hit that and not go through. So just like I say, just have it. Yeah, you can't really see. Try and get it closer. If you have it like that, you can see the star on the right hand side. It's going to hit the metal silver plate behind. So you slide it like that, and then it'll slide through. So now getting the crank installer, just like I said before, remember you've took all the screw bolts out, especially if you've got oil in here. Never forget that one, because like where I'm standing now, I can't see that. I can see it when I look at the camera, so just never remember that one if it's all oily and muddy. Now get the crank splitter, looks like that with your 3 bolts. I'll put on now. That's the crank installer on now, with the crank pusher, puller, whatever you want to call it. So we're just going to tighten this now and it'll split the cases. Have a rubber mallet handy, because you'd have to tap the front sprocket shaft as well. And keep an eye on that, what I've just said. That little star when you're splitting it. Like I say, if it's hitting the cases, it's not going to split. Right, we'll start splitting this now. So we're going to split it now. That's it, when it makes that crack. When it makes that crack noise, the front end normally cracks first, so that's when it's best to tap that. So I'm going to find my rubber mallet now. And before you tap with your rubber mallet, make sure them stars on the selector drum's still lined up with the cases, which they are. So I found the rubber mallet. That's it. So have a check of your gear selector. Make sure it's still all lined up. Sometimes I always change the front sprocket bearing as well, because you know, when if you've got to heat the nut up to get it off on older ones, knacks the bearing up. So I always put a bearing in there. But this shaft doesn't seem to be rusted to the bearing, so it should be alright. Split. Still have to give that a tap. Get into it. Still jammed in the bearing a bit. That's it. It's split. That's what's in your engine. There's the other side casing. So I'll probably be changing all these bearings. Definitely change the mains and still on the crank. That's the crank. That's the crank tool. You can't split an engine with one of them unless you want to split all your cases. Just put that down on the floor for the time being. And then that's all the inside. There's the crank. It's the gearbox. take all this out now. If that drops out when you split the engine, it goes in there. It's for your back engine mount. It must be some sort of rubber damper, but that's where it goes anyway, in there like that when you put it back together. And another thing to remember on this side, where the clutch rod off the pressure plate goes in, you've got that ball bearing. Then there's another push rod. I'll try and get the push rod out. That push rod. So where the ball bearings just went, you have to have it. There's the other push rod on the pressure plate. That's how I have them set. See how the push rod's flush with the nut. Anyway, there's your other push rod and your ball bearing. So that long push rod goes in there first. The other ball bearing. And then when you put the clutch basket back on, that goes in there. So just remember the ball bearing. Because first one I'd done, I put back together. I pulled the clutch in, there was no clutch. I'd missed the ball bearing, I'd left it out. So we'll just take the gear box out now. Balance the shaft. Just pulls out. There's the groove for where the woodruff key goes at the top. There's 2 bars, the other bar must have dropped down there for the selector forks. Pull that one out first. Just slides out. There's your selector drum. That's the star part I was on about. And that's what I was meaning. Them start parts have got to miss these ledges, because if they're not missing the ledges it'll not split. Anyway, just that shaft's there, what your kickstart idler goes on, what I took off at the beginning. I'm just going to tap that and tap that with a rubber mallet. See, that's what the kickstart idler's attached to, this one. I'm just going to tap them anyway with a rubber mallet to get the rest of the gearbox out. That's the gearbox, that's one shaft. There's the other shaft. Select the forks, which look alright. There's the other selector fork. I've got that guide rod, pull that out as well. It's got a circlip on the bottom. So that's all that casing now. The crank might pull out, but I'll probably have to push it out with the machine. So we'll do that now. And now I've got the crank tool on. Push the crank through. Also make sure these are on tight. Just get it like that so you can see it. I'll just screw it in and push it through. That's the crank out. There's the crank. Nice new one. Up and down, playing the bearing. Side to side, that's alright, but up and down, that way up and down is no good, but there's none there. But that way, side to side, like that. That's perfect. That I think you did see it had been crank rebuilt. There's the woodruff key there. That's a little semicircle thing what drives your flywheel. You've got the other side of your crank where that other little square root key went on the primary drive shaft air cog what I took out. Right, now I'm going to take the crank pusher off and have a look at that baffler plate thing invention. So that's the bolt that snapped. I don't know if anybody watches this video, tell us if that will be drilled out, because I've never done nothing like that. That's the little hole I've drilled in to put a little screw in to keep the baffler plate in. I'm not even sure if the baffler plate's oil, it's level on there, it's meant to be level. So oil sits in there. I'll have to check that, but if not, I'll put a new case on. But anyway, that's everything. That's all the bits. Nothing to them. It hasn't even took an hour and a half. Alright, thanks for watching.